After a series of tumultuous political events, Donald Trump returned to the presidency of the United States, rekindling both hope and fear on the international stage. The world is watching anxiously, wondering whether Trump will bring about major calming changes or add to the chaos. As international issues continue to boil, from tensions in Eastern Europe, conflicts in the Middle East, to economic competition with China, now the predictions for US foreign policy under Trump are under scrutiny. War Trump has long been vocal about his ambition to reduce the United States' dependence on China. Under the previous Trump administration, the trade war began in 2018 with the raising of additional taxes of up to 25% on many goods from China. This policy was based on Section 301 of the American Trade Act of 1974. After Trump, Biden kept the tariffs in place and added some new tariffs on certain goods deemed strategically important. Trump's approach was broader, covering many aspects of trade with more general restrictions compared to Biden, who chose to focus on specific goods only. Trump's main goal is to bring manufacturing jobs that have moved overseas, particularly to China, back to the United States. In his 2024 campaign plan, Trump proposed a basic tariff on most imported goods from abroad. In addition, he wants to create rules that could gradually increase tariffs for countries that are deemed to be deliberately devaluing their currencies or engaging in unfair trade practices.
I will impose whatever tariffs are required, 100%, 200%, 1,000%.
This policy does not directly target China, but a universal basic tariff would have a huge impact on Chinese exporters, especially those selling consumer goods, as the United States is a major export market for them. With this policy, consumers and businesses in the United States will also bear higher costs as the prices of imported goods will rise. On the other hand, the Trump administration has previously referred to China as a currency manipulator, meaning it may become a prime target of new mechanisms designed to deal with currency manipulation. Trump has also promised to reduce America's dependence on China with various trade barriers. The most extreme measure proposed is to revoke the Most Favored Nation, MFN status granted to China. This policy is supported by various US government agencies, including the US House of Representatives Special Committee on China. If China's MFN status is removed, the United States could impose higher and unilateral trade tariffs on Chinese goods, even reaching 60% or more as Trump has proposed. This move would not only damage relations between the United States and China, but could also lead to legal conflicts as both are members of the World Trade Organization, WTO. Not enough with the tariff war, Trump also plans to crack down on Chinese companies investing in American energy and technology infrastructure. Foreign investors are concerned that additional scrutiny and sanctions will create a deeper rift between these two economic giants. Donald Trump has made claims that he will encourage Israel to resolve its conflict with Gaza if he becomes president.
I was saddened by the fate of the Palestinian people. They deserve a far better life. They deserve the chance to achieve their extraordinary potential.
However, doubts loom over this promise. When Trump first took office, he declared Jerusalem the capital of Israel, a move that angered many Muslim countries around the world and sparked new tensions in the Middle East.
To officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
At the same time, Trump supported Israel's claim to the Golan Heights, territory occupied from Syria since 1967, making relations between Israel and its neighbors even more difficult. Many Palestinians, especially in Gaza and Lebanon, see Trump's policy as a threat. Trump's full support for Israel in the previous period showed no signs of peace. On the contrary, it has triggered deeper tensions. In fact, predictions suggest that the conflict will worsen, especially if Israel feels fully supported by the United States to take further military steps. Although Trump has a Lebanese-American son-in-law, he recently posted on social platform X that as president, he would stop the suffering and destruction in Lebanon. But the main question is how much Trump will be swayed by his America First instincts. The line he always echoed during the campaign that the interests of the United States come first.
It's going to be only America first. America first.
On the other hand, Iran remains a hot issue for US foreign policy. Trump, who previously withdrew the United States from the Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA, in 2018, has promised not to reinstate the agreement if he returns to power. Instead, he will continue economic and financial sanctions against Iran to pressure the country to halt its nuclear program. However, this tough stance also comes with a big risk. Iran has repeatedly stated that it will resume development of its nuclear technology if the United States continues to apply pressure without providing a diplomatic solution. In fact, Iran has strengthened its military ties with Russia and China in response to the economic isolation imposed by America. If Trump does increase pressure, there is a risk of a direct military conflict involving not only Iran, but also the new alliances that have formed in the Middle East. This scenario would further escalate the global security situation. When Trump claimed that he could end the Russia-Ukraine war within 24 hours, many people questioned the means and impact.
If I were president, and I say this, I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours.
One of Trump's plans was to establish a demilitarized zone, DMZ, that would force Ukraine to give up about 20% of its territory in exchange for a ceasefire. This move has clearly provoked anger among Ukrainian supporters who consider it an unfair compromise for a country that is struggling to maintain its sovereignty. In addition, Trump's transition team is reportedly considering a new arms offer from Russia as part of the deal. While Trump's pledge has attracted attention, many observers see that such a move would be at Ukraine's expense. Russia will feel increasingly empowered to dictate its decisions over territories it has already seized. For Eastern European countries, this prediction sounds sinister. Moreover, Trump is even considering preventing Ukraine from joining NATO for up to 20 years. This approach might be welcomed by Russia. But what about other Eastern European countries worried about the Russian threat? This is where America's role as a NATO ally comes under a big question mark. If Trump decides to stop full support, the future of European security is on the line. In Asia, Taiwan has been one of the main highlights in the tensions between the United States and China. Under the Biden administration, Taiwan received full support as one of the United States' key allies in the face of China's expanding influence. However, Trump has a different approach. He argues that Taiwan should pay for the protection it gets from the United States. In fact, Trump also considers that Taiwan's semiconductor industry has taken over most of the United States' business.
With that being said, Taiwan did take all of our chip business. You know, we used to make our own chips. Now they're made in Taiwan.
This approach certainly has the potential to spark concerns in the region. If Taiwan has to pay for protection, this could be a signal that America no longer provides unconditional support and could weaken Taiwan's position in front of China. This situation would create great anxiety in East Asia, especially for countries like Japan and South Korea that also rely on US military support as protection from growing regional threats. During his first presidency, Trump often boasted of his good relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, reflected in historic summits in Singapore and Vietnam. Despite what appeared to be rare diplomatic efforts, these meetings failed to halt North Korea's nuclear program. Even after his last visit in 2019, North Korea resumed its nuclear weapons development and grew closer to Russia and China, suggesting that the country is poised to win support from other major powers amid US sanctions. If Trump officially returns, his policies may become tougher. He may consider stricter sanctions or forming stronger military alliances with Japan and South Korea, as well as strengthening America's military presence in East Asia. However, this approach is high risk as North Korea could feel increasingly cornered and choose a confrontational path, such as increasing intercontinental ballistic missile tests or even reactivating nuclear tests. Latin America, especially Mexico, is often the focus of Trump's immigration policies. During his previous presidency, Trump implemented a very strict border policy to stop the flow of migration from the region to the United States. In addition, he also tightened sanctions against Venezuela, led by Nicolas Maduro, whom he called an authoritarian regime.
We hope our friends in the EU will soon follow the United States, Canada, and many Latin American nations in sanctioning the Maduro regime. We need everybody involved.
With Trump's return, he promised to put even more pressure on countries that he deems to be incompatible with the values of the United States. However, these measures will not only impact Latin American countries. Trump is also known to have strong views on Chinese and Russian influence in the region. As part of a global strategy to limit the influence of these two great powers, Trump may push Latin American countries away from cooperating with major projects from China, such as the Belt and Road Initiative, or receiving military aid from Russia. This could create new tensions in the region, with the United States getting tougher in restricting these countries from seeking outside economic and technological support. For many countries in Latin America, this may intensify existing economic and social crises, hampering development and triggering more citizens to migrate. On the African continent, Trump is likely to prioritize policies focused on curbing the influence of China and Russia. In recent years, both China and Russia have expanded their presence in Africa, providing loans for major infrastructure and forging ties with local governments. Trump may not welcome this with open arms. Instead, he is expected to reduce economic aid while increasing counter-terrorism operations to counter growing extremist groups in regions such as the Sahel, Somalia, and Central Africa. However, Trump's emphasis on American economic interests in Africa is likely to leave many African countries feeling increasingly marginalized. They may lose aid that is essential for development and social welfare. Instead, these countries may be forced to cooperate more closely with China and Russia as an alternative. This could create new tensions in US-Africa relations, given that Africa is a continent with a fast-growing population and vast natural resources that play an important role in global economic dynamics. Trump is known for his skepticism towards the European Union and NATO, which he often sees as a financial burden to the United States. In his view, many European countries do not contribute enough militarily, despite the protection of NATO, which is largely funded by the United States. Trump's return could signal increased pressure on European countries to finance their own security or increase their contribution to NATO's budget. This would be a tough challenge for Europe, which is already facing economic pressures from the energy crisis and inflation. Countries like Germany, France, and others may feel compelled to increase their defense budgets, but this would come at the expense of other sectors that also require substantial funding, such as health and education. On the other hand, Trump could also push Europe to be more independent militarily, which could mean the establishment of a European defense system that is more separate from the United States. However, for some Eastern European countries that are closer to the Russian threat, this decision could trigger great anxiety. They will feel threatened by a potential reduction in US military support, which has been a pillar of their security. The impact could extend to affecting political stability and alliances in the region, adding to fears that Europe will become increasingly divided in the face of geopolitical challenges. The return of Donald Trump could bring drastic winds of change to the world. However, the change could be for the better or for the worse. Many countries anticipate that Trump's tough approach will bring new risks to global peace and stability. Trump may believe that his America First policy can benefit the United States, but many believe that the world is too connected and interdependent to isolate itself. His unilateral policies could impact the economy, politics, and security of the world as a whole. Ultimately, the future of the world depends on how Trump carries out his policies, should he return to power.
America's comeback starts right now.